turn around. Last come up the breach. She just went back in the breach. Oh, yes. Neha Gupta, come to the front door. Do it now. Breach. U.S. Marshals, we have a warrant for your arrest. Come to the front door. Do it now.
That was a body cam video showing the police announcing their presence at the residence of Neha's residence. After several calls and searches in the residence, she was found hiding. She said she was innocent. So why was she hiding? Not just in her home, but in a laundry room behind a door in complete silence.
Hands! Hands! Come out!
Contact.
On the ground. Come here.
All right, everybody keep clear of the rest of this and get her out.
She hasn't been checked. No. You good? Or take her off. Do you want to help me?
While federal agents surrounded her Oklahoma City house with a warrant for first-degree murder. Why didn't she speak? Why didn't she open the door? Why didn't she face them? She was a doctor, a pediatrician, a woman trained to save children. And now, she is accused of smothering her own 4-year-old daughter and staging the scene to make it look like an accidental drowning. If she's innocent, why run? Why lie low? Why cover her tracks? Her lawyer says she's being misunderstood.
It appears that there was a tragic accident that occurred on June 27th. There is nothing within the four corners of this affidavit that indicate that, if anything, that this was premeditated.
That she was overwhelmed, that she cooperated with police, that she's grieving. But if that's true, then why didn't she stay in Florida after Aria died?
Our concern, Judge, is that this was a rush to judgment. There was no official cause and manner of death. And here we are where the state files an arrest warrant for first-degree murder and is asking my client to be held without bond.
Why did she leave the state alone just days after her child's body was pulled from the deep end of a pool? And let's talk about that pool. The backyard of a rented Airbnb in El Portal, Florida. Booked under Neha's name. No family, no friends, just her and her daughter. Notably absent, Aria's father. Court documents show Neha and the child's father had a shared custody agreement. But when she left Oklahoma for Florida, she didn't notify him, didn't ask for permission, didn't co-sign anything. She just took Aria and left. Why? Was it meant to be a vacation, a distraction, or something far more deliberate? No one else was there to witness what happened next. What we know is this. Around 3:20 a.m. on June 27, 2025, Neha called 911 and reported that her daughter had drowned in the backyard pool. But according to the Miami-Dade medical examiner, that wasn't true. There was no water in Aria's lungs, no fluid in her stomach, no signs of a struggle in the water. Because she didn't drown. She was dead before she ever touched the pool.
Her lungs were dry, indicating she did not drown. So for purposes of this probable cause hearing, there is probable cause. In addition, she waited 10 minutes before she purportedly called 911 for help.
The real cause of death? According to the autopsy, smothering. Bruises on her face. Lacerations inside her mouth. Signs consistent with force, with intent. And the most chilling detail? Investigators say Neha carefully placed her daughter's body in the deep end of the pool after she was already dead, to stage a drowning, to make it look like a tragedy, not a crime. Ask yourself, what kind of mother does that? What kind of mind plans something like this? Was this a snap decision or a slow descent? What was she thinking as she stood there, looking down into the water? Was it guilt, grief, or cold calculation? Was this about control, about punishment, about escape? We don't know, because Neha hasn't told us anything. Not the truth, not her version, not her side. Instead, she went home, flew back to Oklahoma, disappeared into her house, into her silence, until the Marshals came knocking. And even then she hid, not in a panic room, not in a basement, in a laundry room, behind a door, like someone who wasn't ready to face what she had done. Or worse, like someone who already knew what the evidence would say. This is not just a case about a mother and a child. This is a case about trust, power, and the unspeakable acts that can be committed behind closed doors by the people we least expect. She was the person Aria trusted most. She was the one who tucked her in, the one who brushed her hair, the one who kissed her forehead. So if the allegations are true, then Neha Gupta didn't just kill her daughter. She killed the safest place a child can know, her mother's arms. And if they're not true, then why was Aria dead? Why was her body in the deep end? Why was there no water in her lungs? Why did Neha leave the state immediately after? Why did she hide? These aren't easy questions. But in this story, there are no easy answers. This is Silent Water, the story of a child silenced, a mother accused, and the truth trapped somewhere between the surface and the deep end. Are you ready to go there? Because once you do, you can't unsee it, you can't unfeel it, and you won't forget it. She was 4 years old, Aria Talathi, a child who loved stories, pink dresses, and her stuffed animal named Bunny. A little girl with eyes wide enough to hold the whole world and laughter that made strangers smile. She was the only child of Dr. Neha Gupta, a pediatrician, a woman trained to save young lives. So how does a child like Aria end up dead, face down in a backyard pool at 3 a.m? How does the woman trusted to heal other people's children become the prime suspect in the death of her own? Neha Gupta wasn't a stranger to responsibility. She was 36 years old, a licensed pediatrician working in Oklahoma City, known in her community as quiet, professional, and compassionate. To her patients, she was Dr. Gupta, reliable, respectful, always calm. To neighbors and colleagues, she was private but polished. No drama, no chaos, just a single mother and her daughter, living in a quiet neighborhood in Edmond. Those who knew her saw a woman juggling medicine and motherhood, a woman who carried herself with poise. No one, not a single person, expected her name to appear on a murder warrant. But it did. June 25th, 2025. Neha left Oklahoma and traveled to Florida with Aria. She checked into a short-term rental in El Portal, a small community just north of Miami. She didn't bring friends. She didn't bring family. Just herself and her 4-year-old daughter. A mother-daughter trip, a few days by the beach, jet skiing, playing in the sand, reconnecting. That's what she told authorities. On June 26th, she said they had dinner around 9 p.m. They had been at the beach earlier that day. She said Aria fell asleep sometime that night. Just hours later, she called 911. It was 3:20 a.m. She told dispatchers her daughter had drowned in the backyard pool. First responders arrived quickly. They found Aria at the bottom of the pool's deep end. She was unresponsive. She had no pulse. She was rushed to Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami, where she was pronounced dead. The official story at the time? An accidental drowning. A tragic, but all too common summer statistic. But then came the autopsy. The Miami-Dade medical examiner's office ruled Aria's death a homicide. There was no water in her lungs, no fluid in her stomach. The physical signs didn't match a drowning. There were bruises on her face, cuts around her mouth, signs consistent with smothering, not submersion. The report said she was likely dead before her body was ever in the water. The timeline fell apart. If Aria had eaten dinner at 9 p.m., why was her stomach completely empty at the time of death? If she drowned, where was the water? And why was she found in the deep end when she didn't know how to swim? Nothing added up. Neha Gupta told police her daughter must have slipped out while she was asleep. She said she woke up and found Aria in the pool. She said she tried to perform CPR, but the medical examiner's report told a different story. A silent one. It suggested that Aria never made it to the pool by herself, that she was dead before her body hit the water. Investigators say the drowning was staged. 2 days after the autopsy, on July 1st, a warrant was issued for Dr. Gupta's arrest. U.S. Marshals and Oklahoma City police arrived at her home in Edmond, Oklahoma, to serve the warrant. When they knocked, no one answered. They forced their way in. They found her hiding in the laundry room. Silent, motionless, Alone. She was arrested without incident, charged with first-degree murder, held without bond, and soon extradited to Florida to face trial. Her attorneys argued she had no history of violence, no criminal record, no motive. They said she had cooperated with police, that she was devastated. But prosecutors said otherwise. They pointed to the stage scene, the injuries, the timeline that didn't match. They said Neha Gupta killed her daughter and then tried to cover it up. This wasn't a case of neglect, they said. It was intentional, calculated, premeditated. In the days that followed, a different picture of Neha Gupta began to emerge. Not the one in the lab coat, not the smiling doctor at the clinic, but a woman isolated, emotionally unraveling, perhaps trapped in a custody dispute, perhaps overwhelmed by something still unknown. What drove her to that Airbnb in Florida with her daughter? What happened between dinner and the 911 call? Why did she flee the state after her daughter's death? And most heartbreaking of all, what did Aria see in her final moments? Did she cry out for help? Did she wonder why her mother wasn't saving her? Or was it quick, silent, final? These are the questions that hang in the air, not just in the courtroom, but in the public consciousness. Because when a child dies, we demand answers. When a doctor, especially a mother, is accused of orchestrating that death, we demand more than answers. We demand a reckoning. Aria Talathi was a little girl with a life ahead of her. She liked singing, coloring. She had just started writing letters. She adored her mother, and she died in a pool behind a house she would never return from. We begin this story with her, not with the charges, not with the arrest, not with the headlines, but with the child who lost her voice before she ever had a chance to fully use it. This is the story of Neha Gupta, of Aria Talathi, of a pool, a lie, and a question no parent ever wants to ask. What if the safest place a child knows becomes the most dangerous? And what if the person trusted to protect becomes the one who ends it all? This is only the beginning. It was quiet, too quiet for a neighborhood just north of Miami. No screaming, no sirens until it was too late. In the early morning hours of June 27, 2025, the small town of El Portal, Florida, was still asleep. But something was already terribly wrong. A 4-year-old girl named Aria Talathi was lying at the bottom of a pool, and her mother, Dr. Neha Gupta, was the only other person there. She would later call 911 at precisely 3:20 a.m. But by then, the truth may have already been underwater. Why 3:20 a.m.? Why did she wait until then to make the call? Where was Neha for the 3, maybe 4 hours leading up to that moment? Was she asleep, as she later claimed? Or was something else happening behind that closed door? She told police that she had woken up and found Aria missing. She said she rushed outside and saw her daughter floating in the pool. She said she panicked. She pulled Aria out. She tried CPR, but when paramedics arrived, they found Aria unresponsive, lifeless, submerged in the deep end of the backyard pool. The water was cold, the night was dark, and the air was heavy with something more than Florida humidity. Silence? Aria was rushed to Jackson Memorial Hospital's trauma center. She was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. Just hours before, she had been a child on vacation. Now she was a statistic, another accidental drowning, or so it seemed, until it wasn't. The backyard pool became a crime scene. The water that should have held splashes and laughter now held suspicion. Let's walk through that night, minute by minute. Dr. Gupta had told police she and Aria returned from the beach between 7 and 8 p.m. They had dinner around 9 p.m., she said. Just the two of them. Neighbors didn't report any loud noises. No arguments. No signs of a struggle. At face value, it was a peaceful night. But that peace was paper-thin. What happened after 9 p.m.? We don't know, because from that moment on, no one else saw Aria alive. By morning, she was gone, and the story started to fall apart. The first problem? The autopsy. It found no water in Aria's lungs, no sign of aspiration, no fluid in her stomach, meaning she hadn't swallowed water. That meant she didn't drown, not in any clinical sense. So why was she found in a pool? The medical examiner also noted cuts inside her mouth. bruises around her face, signs of smothering. Not accidental, not a slip, but force. Her stomach was empty, which directly contradicted Gupta's claim that she'd eaten dinner just hours before. How does a pediatrician, a medical professional, fail to notice that her child isn't breathing? Why didn't she call for help sooner? Why didn't she scream? Neighbors were never alerted to trouble. No cries for help. No frantic knocks. Nothing. Only a phone call to 911 in the dead of night. Could it be that Neha Gupta staged a scene? Could she have placed Aria's body in the pool after her death? That's what prosecutors now believe, that this wasn't a drowning. It was a cover-up. The only person who knows exactly what happened between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. is Neha. But she isn't talking. The silence from that night speaks louder than any confession. And yet questions remain. Why did a mother travel more than 1,000 miles from Oklahoma to Florida with her daughter just days before this happened? Was she trying to escape something? Was there trouble brewing back home? Was this an act of despair or something darker? We know there was a custody dispute with Aria's father, though few details have been made public. Was Neha overwhelmed? Or was this premeditated? The Airbnb itself becomes part of the mystery. Rented quietly, paid in full, no one else involved. A place that should have been a peaceful getaway instead became a child's final resting place. Crime scene analysts examined the pool area. They found no evidence of a break-in, no sign of foul play from any third party, no alcohol, no signs of impaired judgment, no excuse. The case took a sharp turn once the autopsy was released. Miami-Dade detectives began asking different questions. Not how did she drown, but who killed her? And the answer they believed was standing right there. Neha Gupta never returned to the Airbnb. She left Florida and went back to Oklahoma just days after Aria's death. She didn't stay for the results of the autopsy, didn't attend the medical examiner's review, didn't wait for the funeral arrangements. She went home. Was it grief, guilt, or fear of what would come next? Investigators issued a warrant for her arrest on July 1st, 2025. The charge, first-degree murder. The allegation, she smothered her daughter and then staged a drowning to cover it up. U.S. Marshals located her at her Oklahoma home. She didn't answer the door. She was found hiding in the laundry room. When officers confronted her, she surrendered without resistance. No explanation, no denial, no words, just silence. Back in El Portal, the pool was drained. The investigation continued, but no new suspects emerged because there were no others. Just Neha and Aria, just a mother and a daughter. One alive, one dead. 6 hours. That's all it took to unravel everything. From the beach to the backyard. From bedtime to a body bag. From laughter to lifelessness. 6 hours. And now the world asks, what happened in that house? What did Aria see? Did she cry out for her mother, only to be silenced by her? Was it quick? Was it planned? Was it preventable? We may never know all the answers, but the evidence tells a story without words, without witnesses, without mercy. This is the night Aria died, and the night Neha's world began to collapse. And in the quiet streets of El Portal, the pool behind that little house still waits. Empty, still, silent, because the water never spoke, but the silence did. It's July 1st, 2025. In the early hours of the morning, Oklahoma City is quiet. But federal agents are preparing for a knock that will echo across the country. They're not searching for a fugitive from the streets. They're not chasing a drug dealer or a career criminal. They're looking for a pediatrician, a woman who once carried a stethoscope in her hand and now carries a murder charge on her name. Dr. Neha Gupta. She didn't run when her daughter died, but she left Florida, left the scene, left behind a lifeless child and a trail of unanswered questions. And now she is at home in Edmond, Oklahoma, hundreds of miles away from the backyard pool in El Portal where her 4-year-old daughter, Aria Talathi, was found dead just days earlier. Authorities believe that the drowning was staged, that Aria was smothered, that her mother, the woman who gave her life, had taken it back. And now they've come to take Neha into custody. U.S. Marshals surround the property. The arrest warrant in their hands is signed by a Miami-Dade judge. First-degree murder. They knock. No response. They call out. Neha Gupta, come to the door. Nothing. Seconds pass. Then, minutes. The tension mounts. Where is she? Why isn't she answering? Is she hiding? Is she armed? Is she gone? The decision is made, forced entry. They breach the front door. Weapons drawn. Voices raised. They move room by room, checking the kitchen, the bedrooms, the bathroom. Still nothing, until they reach the laundry room. And there, huddled behind the door, is Dr. Neha Gupta. Not in scrubs, not in tears, not resisting, just hiding. Why was she in the laundry room? What was she waiting for? Did she think she could stay silent long enough for this to go away? Did she still believe the story would hold? She is ordered to the ground, handcuffed, escorted out of her home. No media, no cameras yet. But that would change within hours. The body cam footage from that morning would later go public. It would show a woman saying nothing, showing no emotion, as if something had shut off inside her. And perhaps it had, because once the Miami-Dade medical examiner's report confirmed that Aria had not drowned, everything changed. This is no longer a case of accidental death. It became a criminal investigation, a homicide. The medical evidence showed no water in Aria's lungs, bruising consistent with smothering, and no food in her stomach, despite Gupta's claim that they had eaten late that night. Investigators believed Gupta placed her daughter's lifeless body in the pool to stage a drowning, and then left Florida, returned to Oklahoma, and tried to resume life as usual. But the evidence followed her, and now the law had caught up. Back in Miami, prosecutors built their case. The charge, first-degree murder with premeditation. The motive? Still unclear. But the method, they argued, was deliberate. The details were chilling. A child dead at the bottom of a pool. No struggle reported. No water inhaled. No signs of forced entry. No evidence of anyone else present. Just a mother and her daughter and a quiet backyard in the middle of the night. What happened between the beach and the 911 call? Why did Gupta flee Florida so quickly? Was it panic or planning? Was she grieving or covering her tracks? Prosecutors pointed to one simple fact. She left. She didn't stay for the funeral, didn't wait for the autopsy, didn't alert family or friends.